Welcome to the first module in what is going to be a series over the course of the next number of weeks on outdoor living space, how to accomplish drawing that within SoftPlan using the various tools that are available to you. At this stage, what we are looking to do is create a project very much like this, one that is going to have an existing two-story structure, which will have a roof on both floors. Ultimately, we will, in time, design a screened-in porch, a couple of decks with various styles of railing, a cooking area for the outdoor, which includes an overhead trellis, and finally landscaping around a fire pit that we're going to use within the plan. Today's class is going to basically revolve around creating a project, what type of walls to use, how to sketch those walls in and set up dimension options that will suit for you. We'll add the openings to the existing structure, create both the foundation and the second floor, and get things like the roof in place. With all of that set, then we will be able to begin designing the exterior of the drawing as far as the outdoor living space we're proposing. To start, what we're going to do is we're going to come in and we're going to create a new project. Now, prior to that, I'm going to just show you through the system options the different wall types that are available to you. So clicking on File and System Options and scrolling down here to the Define Wall list, you will see that by default, when I edit this list, we have a set list of walls there, which are typically can be used for new construction, okay, going forward, and then you can define and add to this wall list as necessary. Now, I bring you here because I want to show you that we ship, that is the standard list, and we also ship two other wall lists. And the wall list that I'm going to focus on for these next 9 or 10 weeks of design is going to be the remodeler wall list. And so I'm going to load this, and when I load that wall list in and select Edit, what it's going to show me is that I actually have the ability here now to draw with new walls. So if I click on a 2x4 brick wall that's new, we can see that there's the design of it there. And as I scroll down and I select, let's say, an existing 2x4 wall, okay, the difference here is going to be that this wall itself is not going to be included in soft list. That's important because we don't want to calculate the material that's used for this. And then finally, if I were to come down to an existing, remove wall list, it's going to be not only dotted, but again, not included in the soft list. And so with this done, I'm now going to say yes to saving that system options change, and I'm going to come down here and create a brand new project. And we will simply call this Outdoor Living, okay, because that's really what we're going to be doing with this. Once I've created the project name, I can come down and we've got our drawing name being the main floor, and we're going to automatically open a three-dimensional tab as well as a soft list tab, which will be used to calculate what we're drawing. Client information could include things like the name of the client, where it's going to be built, etc. And finally, down here in the lower left, we're going to copy our project to the SoftPlan cloud, okay, so that this project is being saved, off-site, so to speak, which could also be accessed by you or someone else if given access to the project, okay, to download and use elsewhere within the plan. Upon clicking OK, you will now have three tabs across the top for the project that you've created. We have the main floor plan, the 3D texture tab, which will allow us to see the three-dimensional model, and standard complete, which is our bill of materials or soft list module. And the soft list module will be estimating as we go. When I come back to the main floor plan, from here I can now come in through the draw wall command, or I can right click on the drawing screen to get access to the same list of commands across the ribbon bar at the top. And when I select this, it will open up my wall list. And so from here, you will see that we have our new walls, our existing walls, and our removal walls. So in our case, we want to select the existing 2x4 siding wall and click OK. When I select that, it's going to list draw wall in the function as the function that we're going to be doing. It lists the wall type that I've chosen, and the tape measure and the angle with which I could draw walls in will also be listed there. Positioning my cursor on the drawing screen, I'm going to click to start the wall and now move my cursor left to right the approximate length of said wall. And so in this case, at approximately 37 feet, I will click, and if I zoom this up, you'll see the wall is kind of ghosted in there, and what it's waiting for me to do is basically tell it which side of the wall we are going to place a surface side on. And so I will click to place siding towards the top. Rolling my mouse wheel back out away from the plan, I'm now just going to approximate the 5 feet and click. And I say approximate because at this stage you're going to find that working within SoftPlan, we want you to just sketch in at it. We don't want to interrupt the design phase of the plan. We want you to basically be freeform sketching, and as you go, you can always edit the dimensions later after the fact with relative ease, really, as far as it's concerned. Coming into with the plan set now, I can right click on any dimension or really any object within the plan, and when I select edit, I can now modify this dimension, and in this case I'm going to change it from the 58 feet 7.5 inches to 57 feet. I can hit the left or the right arrow key to adjust that dimension, and so when I do that, it's going to adjust the dimension by moving that end of the line either left or right to accommodate the change. And so continuing on, I could type in 37 feet and hit the right arrow key, which leaves me 20 feet here. Now moving top to bottom, I'm just going to continue to modify the dimensions as it sees fit. Remember, this is the existing structure, so we are simply modifying these dimensions to accommodate the change. Now, a tool that could be helpful here is we know this wall and this wall are supposed to align, so rather than editing the dimension, I could come in through move, and in this case align to edge, and I'll zoom this up, and I'm going to click the inside of the stud here and the inside of the stud there. It will adjust the dimensions to suit, okay, automatically on the plan. Continuing on with my editing of dimensions now, I'm just going to type in 16 feet and hit the right arrow key, edit the next dimension, which will be 21 feet, and hit the right arrow key. And so at this stage, we've quickly gotten our blueprint of our existing structures set up on the plan. If I were to click into the 3D Texture tab, I can see that I've got my structure, and if using the 3D viewer here in the lower right hand or left hand corner, I can click the little triangle and it's going to zoom me into that view looking down at a 45-degree angle. And if I pick any of the other triangles around the outside, it's going to continue to do the same thing. I can also, if I wish to orbit around the drawing, hold down the mouse wheel, and then as I move the mouse left or right, it will do the same thing for me. Typically during a design in the early stages, I'm not going to draw inside the texture mode. In fact, in a lot of cases what I'll do is I'll actually draw inside shaded, because at this stage we're really just looking for form and function of the plan. Okay, we're not interested in colors of siding and so on right now as much as we're just trying to get the shapes right as far as that's concerned. Once inside shaded mode, I could also come in and I could change the setup options and remove the horizon that's there. And this will just help, with me, really honestly at this stage, I'm just working with the shapes. Okay, and so with this said and done, I'll come back to my main floor plan and I'm going to run what's called a cleanup. Now you can use the icon or shortcut keys, Control-C, which is a great way if you learn how to have one hand on the keyboard and one hand on the mouse, Control-C is your cleanup. It extends your extension lines to your dimensions. Okay, it will help walls form to one another if they're within 6 inches of each other. It will change offsets of items so that symbols sit on top of floor systems, etc. So the cleanup is a great tool that you'll want to learn how to run. As far as that, just hitting Control-C, and Control-S is going to do the save. And I would show this to you if you go into File and System Options and System Options. And what I would tell you to do is come into the keyboard shortcuts and soft talk commands, and just click on Keyboard. This will give you the complete list of all of the keyboard shortcuts that ship with the software. Now, I'm not going to touch on how to define new ones at this stage, but even just printing this out here, you would learn that hitting the letter A would set, adjust item, or the letter E will enable item erase, and so on, and it will enhance or speed up your drawing and design time within the software. Okay. With our floor plan set at this stage, okay, we are going to begin to add things like openings to the drawing. Now, you can draw inside the floor plan, you can draw inside the 3D shaded, and you can also draw inside the elevation. And so in this case here, I'm just going to click on the front, which is looking up from the front side, the left side elevation, and the right side elevation. Okay? And in this case now, as I begin to draw inside either the floor plan, the model, or the elevations, these openings and so on will show up. So if I were to do this inside 3D, I could come in through Draw and Opening. And when it opens this up, it's going to show me my list of openings, on the plan. You even have manufacturers that are available to you. So if you're doing new construction, okay, or replacing the openings, you can select from the list of product codes that are there or define your own. In my case, I'm going to scroll down to the double hung library and select a 36 by 72 inch double hung window and position my cursor where I wish to place it and click. And you'll see that as I move my cursor across the plan, I can click and add multiple openings on the drawing. And so again, I'm just, adding these around the plan, inside 3D. Okay, and I can come back into the main floor plan and I can see where those dimensions are going to be placed, okay, and then begin to edit them. Now typically, because this is an existing structure, we're not really dimensioning to the center of the opening, so if we want to modify this so that the dimensions go to edge of opening, we could select dimension, extension format, and we could change the openings from center to either edge or rough. Okay, so in this case, I'm just going to change it to edge, and then I'm going to redimension my plan, just with clicking the auto dimension. I'll zoom this up, and again, I could go to options and enlarge dimension numbers, or if you go back to the shortcut keys I just showed you, Control Q acts as a toggle for us to do that. And so now I could edit these dimensions, and I could say, okay, 3 feet to move that window into place, and I'm going to do the same thing, okay, just continuing to modify these dimensions now. So 1 foot, it's a 3 foot dimension, 1 foot between, and again 1 foot between, and that leaves me 3 feet there, and that gets me my openings in place there. And so I could do the same thing here. Okay, I'm just modifying 3 feet, and remember, these are all existing dimensions that we're working with that we would have just taken from the actual drawing, maybe with a laser or just tape measure. And so I'm just setting this into place, and I will do the next dimension here at 13 feet. Now this is a twin window that's going to be set here, so I'm just going to come in through Move and Copy, and I'm going to pick this opening. I'm going to move it up here approximately where I want it to be, but I know it's exactly 3 feet based on the dimension. And so I could key in that distance and then select OK to have the window there. And so as I look at the elevations, we can see the openings across the front side, the left side, and the right side still needs a couple of openings in there, so I'll pick this and I'll draw an opening here inside the elevation, and I'll go to the exterior door, and I'm going to select the French door, 32 by 80 French A, and drop that in. And these could then again be modified to suit. So I'm really just popping back and forth between where we want this to be. And so I'll edit this, and we'll type in 2'6", and we'll push it up. And then we know that we wanted to have 1 foot between that opening and that door, and that gets it into place. And then this door itself could be then modified, and under the display tab I can reverse the door swing to the other side, and with a single click the reverse hinge if that were applicable as well. And so very quickly we have laid out the main floor plan something like so. Now, these can be modified, or we can make modification changes to these openings. And so I'm going to do that from the elevation. I could select Edit Item, and I'm just going to click on the window. And from here, I could come in and I could add something like the default wood trim that's going to be placed on the exterior here. And I could also go into the Grill tab and enable that. And so once I've done that, I can now right-click and just repeat edit those same changes to all of these windows. And so again, that's a quick way to come in and modify and apply that to the openings And I'm doing all of this just through the elevations. So we can visually see that. It updates the floor plan, it updates the 3D shaded model on the plan. So carrying on from here now, okay, as I'm looking at the main floor plan, and I'm just going to do a save on that. One thing that we want to do with these openings here is if I edit this one last time, okay, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to select the Softlist tab. These windows are existing, so I'm not interested in doing a res check or a Softlist calculation on them at this stage. I'm going to click OK on that, and then using Edit, Repeat Edit Box, I'm just going to sketch a box completely around the plan. Even though the walls were already defined not to include in the soft list, I'm just not going to take a chance and miss anything, so I get all of the openings. They're no longer included in the soft list, okay? Now, obviously, if you were replacing a door, perhaps going out to the outside, you would leave that door in the soft list so that it doesn't calculate. But that just basically, clears us up there. I'm going to do a cleanup and a save. What I'm going to do now is I want to create both a second floor and a basement that's going to be used on this. And so under Draw, I'm going to select Reference and pick the reference circle. I'm going to position my cursor where I want to place this and click it on the outside of the stud. When I pick Draw and Reference, what it does is basically this sets up a 0 point that's going to be used to align or stack the drawings because, again, we're going to create 3 plans. And so trying to do this in the order that we want to do it, if we add this here, it'll carry over to the basement, will carry over to the second floor plan. So with that done, now we will select Model and pick the Auto Basement. Now when I select the Auto Basement, it's going to name the drawing, and that's great. And then I can select the block walls, and in this case, once again, the basement is actually already there, so we're going to use the existing block walls, and I'm going to click OK. Now, if there were garage walls, I would have the option of placing those in there and setting the height, etc. But I'll click OK, and I'll say yes to saving these changes. And when I do that, it's going to create this basement plan. And as I look at this inside the 3D shaded, you'll see I get the block walls again. And I also get openings in all of their converted from the main floor to this plan. And so inside the basement drawing, this may be important if you have, windows that are going to be covered up by decks or outdoor living space to have these denoted on the drawing. In my case, I'm not interested in keeping them, so I'm just going to click on Erase and Type Erase and check the openings at this stage to take them out. Okay? These are my walls. If I click on Soft List, they're already not included in Soft List because it was made a copy from the main floor down here, and so all we did was convert the walls, and it carried over, things like the Soft List tab. If I were to change into floor system, I would see I have a slab here automatically placed in there. So again, I'm going to remove this from Soft List again because I'm teaching towards the bill of materials. If I were to select Dimension and Auto Dimension on this, I would see that I get the dimensions in place, okay, for the drawing. Now, interesting, if you were to come in here at this stage, and let's just split this out into a vertical tab group. So we're going to have the basement over here and the main floor plan over here. And I have them stacked in the model here. So now what I could do is select Zoom and sync Model Zoom. And with that synced, I can actually go through and I can check the dimensions to make sure that those are accurate, keeping in mind that these dimensions are actually going to be pulling from the outside of the siding on the because these are existing walls, and so when it goes with the sheathing and the siding, I would expect these dimensions to be 1.5 inches less on either side, which is why we get the 3 inches less on the plan. Okay, again, these are existing dimensions. That's why we're pulling it from the outside of the siding. Okay, and it's a great way to check dimensions when you're looking at it just by setting the Sync Model Zoom in the split screen. And once again, that was just right click, and I split into a vertical tab group, and now I'm going to move it back to the previous tab group. So again, if I come back to main floor plan this time and I select File, this time I'll do a Save As, and I'm going to create a second floor plan. Okay, and so I'll just type in my second floor, and I will click Save on this. It pulls this up at this stage so that we can see what we have. Okay, and now what I can do is I can go in and I can remove information that I don't want to keep. So I'm going to select Erase and Block Cut. and I'm actually just going to block cut this segment of the plan out. Okay, now when I do that, okay, it obviously opens up a large, hole right here. So using tools and fillet, I'm going to zoom this up. I'm going to click on the endpoint of this wall and the endpoint of this non-parallel wall, and they will be extended to one another, on the actual drawing itself. And so that's going to allow me to, see that, on the plan. Now, I'm going to erase this window out of here, and I'm just going to edit this one, and I'm going to change it from a 36 by 72 to a 36 by 60, just because it's on the upper floor, okay, and I can go in there and modify things like the grill, etc. And so again, I can now come in through copy, and I'm going to copy this one over so that we've got a twin window there, and click OK. And then using the draw and select option, I'm going to pick this window and I'm going to add a couple of other ones across the back here. And so as I do that, and I can, certainly draw in multiple windows on the plan itself just by, again, whatever is called out as far as the plan is concerned. So a 24 by, say, 36 window, we could drop it in there. And windows, on the fly can be modified. So if after adding this, I realize this is supposed to be something different, I just edit the window and I change it to a different size of window, like so. Again, I can now edit these dimensions to be what they are on site. And so I'm just moving this across as we go here. And so we'll do this one at 10 feet as well. And then we'll modify this to be 5 feet. And we'll modify this one to be 10, and we very quickly created ourselves, what the upstairs is going to look like. If I were to drag this into the main floor plan, just to be sure, and this is a kind of a recap of things, I could split the main floor plan out into a new vertical tab group using the zoom and making sure the model is synced. I can now zoom up and I can see if my dimensions are indeed, accurate between the two plans, and they are indeed. And so now I can move the main floor plan back into the previous tab group. As I look at this from a 3D shaded perspective by clicking on the outside, what I can see is I've got my walls and windows, and again, as I need to, I can always modify these, okay, as I, add them to the drawing. And so again, I'm just going to, I added trim and grill, and I just repeat edit that there, and I'm just zooming this around something like so. And then finally, I can look at this from an elevational perspective. So I'll pull up the view and I'll select zoom and extent. And I'll do the same thing as I, change the views, because I've added the second floor plan in there just to zoom everything up. Now, the one thing that I'm missing as I look at it in the 3D shaded is going to be the floor system. And that's important. If you get the floor system in, it's going to get the elevations all correct. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the main floor plan at this stage and change modes in the upper right hand corner to floor system. And so when I do this, it lays out the outline of the walls where they are, and I'm just going to come in and using the default floor system options, 9.5 inch joists, 16 inch spacing, okay, etc. And we're going to go with solid lumber. Now, if this were I-joist, you could certainly put that in there, but realistically, what we're after right now is just getting elevations in there correctly. So I'm not even worried about trying to break the joists up or where they bear, because it doesn't have an impact, on anything other than to get the elevations correct. And so selecting floor system, I'm going to auto draw in the joist, ring joist, sill plate, and subfloor, and I'll auto trace that in. And what that does is if I were to change into profile mode, this green dotted line represents the 0 line, and then the walls are offset on top of that. And so basically, these walls, if you were to edit them, now have an offset of 11.625 inches, which is 1.5 inch sill, 9.5 inch joist, 5/8 subfloor. And so I'll click OK on this, and then you've got your wall on top. Now you can edit these at any time, okay, and you can see that in the soft list they're being included, which we don't want to do. And so again, I'm just going to repeat edit box and take those things out of that on the plan. And so now I will change it back into drawing mode, and I'm going to go to the second floor plan to do the same thing. And so when I open up the second floor plan and I change into floor system mode, which could have just been done with a keyboard shortcut of Control J, I can select floor system. I'm going to remove the sill plate this time and just auto trace that in. Again, I could edit this, in this case the subfloor. I'm going to take it out of the include in soft list, and I'm going to do a repeat edit box around the rest of the floor system items so that they are not being calculated. And so again, as I look at this inside 3D Shaded, I now have a subfloor in here, I have my wall types in there, okay. If I look at it from an elevation, things are beginning to snap into shape, and I'm just going to continue to keep these zoomed to extent so I can see everything as we work with it. With that in place, walls, structural floor systems, we can now take a look at putting the roofs on. And I'm going to tackle roofs from the perspective that what we want to do is we want to put the roofs on the second floor plan even if they reference first floor walls. That would allow us to generate a bird's eye perspective all as one drawing rather than having a second floor plan bird's eye and a main floor bird's eye. So I'm going to tackle this from the second floor plan looking down at the first story. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change into roof mode here in the upper right hand corner. And when I do that, okay, I get basically the outline of the walls on the plan. Now you can see that they're color coded, so all solid green at this stage, meaning my wall heights are all the same. If you are interested in seeing things like wall heights show up on the drawing, you can go to Options, Invisible Items, and then under Roof, you could actually turn on the plate height, okay? And this is something I will sometimes do depending on what I'm doing as far as the construction is concerned. So once you have done this, you could then come in and you could, under the Draw and Multiple Floor Roof, add the main floor below. So now we see what the plate height is of the second floor. We see the plate heights of the main floor. Okay, and under Draw and Roof options here, I can now come in and modify what my default roof pitch is going to be. So for every 12 inches of run, it's going to rise 6 inches. What my default overhang is going to be. Okay, so if I wanted an 18-inch overhang versus a 16-inch overhang, depending on what it's calling out for, and I can also go in here and modify the heel height, which is going to be the vertical measurement from the top of the plate to the top of the rafter. Now again, if I click OK at this stage, that's going to be applied to this drawing. Having completed or put in the roof options, I'm going to select the auto roof and I'll just say no and add the roof on the second floor plan to begin with. Now if I come into the 3D Shaded and I were to split this into a vertical tab group, I'm going to be able to see the roof over here on the right hand side while I'm working on the second floor plan over here. And so if I edit this roof, you can see there's all of my information as it pertains to this roof. And I'm just going to right click and apply a gable to the left side, the right side, and finally this plane right here. And as I do that, it updates the model. Now this is the benefit of being able to draw like this, and if you have multiple monitors, you could even split this screen out if you wanted to, okay, so that you had it on a different monitor, but in our case, we can see what this now looks like. And so I'm going to zoom this up, and we're now going to tackle this roof right here. So using Trace Roof, I'm going to come in and I'm going to trace this roof in here, okay, on the lower floor, even though it's technically being stored on the second floor plan. And now I can edit and apply a gable to this edge right here. Now this roof actually is a slightly different pitch, and so if we come in and we modify that to a 412 pitch, okay, we're making it shallower, and then I can repeat edit that here, that gives me a truer representation of what the roof is going to look like from the rear. And so, in conclusion, for today's first chapter or module, we have gone through and we have created a main floor plan using the existing wall types. We have modified the openings after we place them for their exterior trim and whether they were included in the soft list. Using the model and auto basement, we quickly created a basement plan, and then through File and Save As, we have created this second floor plan on the actual drawing. This gives us elevations to work from, okay, automatically here now as we design it, plus the three-dimensional model. And finally, the Softlist bill of materials is being generated in the background. At this stage, there isn't a lot to report because to date we have modified most of this project to not be included in Softlist. But as the project begins to unfold in the coming chapters, things like the decks and the railings and the patios and pergolas, etc., will all be calculated here because we're going to include those. And so brings to a conclusion this chapter on creating a project, laying out wall types, editing dimension options, and so on. This was an important first step so that in next week's lesson we can begin with the creating a site plan, setting the building position on the site, setting up of north points, moving around in 3D, and even sun options. And once that is set, it will unfold the rest of this design.